students. You are welcome back to the module on curriculum studies in physics. And you are also welcome to the last session of Unit 2, which is Unit Session 6. And in Session 6, we are going to look at resource allocation. Patrick Eji is my name. Now, at the end of this session, you should be able to identify the various sources and types of resources that are needed to implement the curriculum. Secondly, you should be able to describe how resources are allocated to various levels of curriculum implementation. Then explain why resources are essential in the achievement of national and school educational goals embodied in the curriculum. Then finally, you should be able to assess resource requirements for the subjects and classes that you as a teacher, you teach. Now let's zoom in to resource allocation. We cannot define resource allocation without understanding what a resource is and what we mean when we say allocation. And so to begin with, we're saying that resources are the means, they are the money, the property, and skills that are available to someone or an institution for the purpose of achieving specified objectives. So the money, the property, the skills, the means that are available to you that will help you to achieve a specified objective is a resource. What then is allocation? So allocation, derived from the verb allocate, means to decide officially that a particular amount of resource be given to or used for a particular purpose. So for instance, we can talk of a resource like time, and you know how you allocate your time, how you decide that in the morning I will go here, in the afternoon at this time I will do this. That is allocation. You officially decide that this resource be given to this particular purpose. Now, what then is resource allocation? So resource allocation refers to the resources that government, local authorities, and schools make available for the purpose of achieving educational goals and objectives as specified in the curriculum. Now, we know that the ultimate consumers or beneficiaries of these resources are the learners and the society as a whole. So, what the government, what the local authorities, what the schools will make available to help you as a teacher to achieve the educational goals and objectives are what we term as resource allocation. And this is done so that at the end of the day, we are able to get productive learners and productive citizens. Now, let's look at sources of educational resource. And the first source of educational resource is the central government. And so, every year, the government will read their budget, and in their budget, they will allocate an amount of money to the Ministry of Education in order to help them fulfill their mandate. So, the central government allocates, normally it is the money, that is finances. They give the financial needs of the ministry, and that is one source of educational resource. Now, when the central government allocates funds then to the ministry, then the ministry also becomes a source of educational resource. So the Ministry of Education will also allocate these funds to the various regions, the various schools that are under their jurisdiction, so that whatever aims and objectives we have in the curriculum can be translated into learning experiences that will be given to the learners. Now, another source of educational resources is the local authority. And so you realize that The land on which all our schools are built were provided by the local council. And sometimes you go to some communities and the local authorities put up structures such as laboratories, libraries for the schools in their communities. So the local authority also serve as a source of educational resource. Also, we have the school. So when the Ministry of Education now allocate funds to the school, so at the school we have the money is there, the time is there, the teachers are in the school. All these are resources that are at the disposal of the school, that the school will also ensure that they will use it to maximize learners' learning outcomes, so that at the end of the day, the national goals and objectives of the curriculum can be achieved. Now, parents are also a source of educational resource. So there are times parents will come together, like the Parent Teacher Association. They put up buildings, staff bungalows in schools. They sometimes furnish school libraries. In private schools, parents pay school fees, and this is what is being used in paying teachers in those private schools. Also, we have teachers, and at the disposal of the teacher has the knowledge, the skills, and the time. These are resources that are available to the teacher, and the teacher will use these resources in translating curriculum goals and objectives into learning experiences that will be acquired by the learners. Now, let's look at the types of educational resources. And the types of educational resources that we have are the financial resources, the human resource, and the material resource. Now, when we talk about the financial resource, we are referring to the money that is used in the payment of salaries, the money that is used in purchasing of teaching learning materials, the money that is used in building classrooms, building laboratories. That is the financial resource. Now, the human resource talks about the teachers, the administrators, the inspectors in the school system, who will also ensure that the national goals and objectives of the curriculum are being implemented and then for achieved. And we also have the material resource. And the material resource, we have the buildings, we have the vehicles, your laboratories, your classroom blocks. All these are material resources, and they are the educational resources. Now, let's look at resource allocation at the school level. So we know that resources from various sources interact. And what are the sources? So we mentioned the central government, we mentioned the Ministry of Education, we mentioned the school itself, we mentioned the teachers, we mentioned parents. All these resources interact in the school in order to achieve educational goals and objectives as outlined in the curriculum. And so the deployment of teachers to subject areas and classes is one form of allocating resource at the school level. Why? Because when the Ministry of Education recruit teachers, or the Ghana Education Service recruit teachers, and these teachers are sent to various schools, it is the head teacher or the HOD who will have to allocate these teachers to the various subject areas they are supposed to teach. They allocate them to various classes they are to handle. They give them the timetables that the teachers will follow. So teachers are being deployed to subject areas and classes, so that at the end of the day, the learning experiences that learners are supposed to have, they can attain these learning experiences. And so the school head should allocate the time, the material, and the human resources at their disposal for the benefit of all. Now note that when the school heads are not able to competently do this allocation, then we must also understand that we cannot achieve the curriculum goals and objectives. Now let's look at resource allocation by teachers. So teachers, we saw that at their disposal they have the time, they have the knowledge and the skills. And these must be equitably allocated among their students, so that their students will be able to acquire the needed learning experiences. And so The teacher is also the last person in the chain to make sure that resources allocated at various levels are utilized for the benefit of all the students. So, being it the money, being it the material resources like the teaching learning materials, when all these things are being provided, it is the teacher who will now utilize them so that the learners can also benefit from these materials. Now, let's find out whether the resources we have in our schools are adequate. Are they adequate? And I know our response is going to be no. And no, because due to the high demand for education throughout the country, so educational resources are far from being adequate. And we know that the central government is unable to meet the financial requirements of the ministry. And you know it's a chain. So once the central government is unable to meet the financial requirements of the ministry, then the ministry can also not be able to meet the financial requirements of the regions. And once the regions are not able to get whatever things that they need, it means the schools will also not meet, the schools will also not get all the things that they will require from their regions. And so, at the school level, the heads, teachers, as well as the teachers, must manage the resources they have very efficiently in order to achieve the goals as prescribed in the curriculum. So, for instance, you need teaching learning materials to teach concepts in electricity. But these materials are not available. But in your school, you have a computer laboratory. You can install the FET interactive simulation on these computers so that during the lesson, you can take your students to the computer lab and you can use the FET interactive simulation to teach the concepts. Although the students will not have the physical materials, they can still have the virtual materials, which at the end of the day can help us to achieve the curriculum goals and objectives. Now, students, in this session, we have looked at resource allocation, and we also look at the sources of educational resource, and we saw why resources are inadequate. Now, assess the resources at your disposal as a teacher and determine whether they are adequate. So as you start your assessment, I know you have taken your pen and a paper and you have started writing down things. That is very good. Do this assessment and bring your findings in our next session for discussion. Thank you for joining today's session, and thank you for joining the last session of Unit 2. See you in the subsequent units and sessions of this model. Bye.